Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's show. We are going to be looking at the new investment landscape. And what I mean by that is really looking at how today's economy and how the landscape is changing around the rules of wealth creation. There's a lot going on, a lot of changes, and sometimes it could get a bit confusing. So we're going to have a look at kind of how things are today, look at how things were in the past, and look at how things may be in the future as well. So I think in today's generation, everybody faces different challenges when they're trying to embark on their wealth creation journey, or they're already on that and trying to navigate through. Creating wealth isn't always, the easiest market, the easiest in markets, depending on what you're doing, whether it's property, whether it's stocks, or whether you're looking at a multitude of different things. It sometimes
Do we
can be a
actually
bit
think,
confusing.
just to jump in here, Richard, do we actually think that the majority of people are actually thinking about wealth creation? I think with this cost of living carry on that's going on and this supposed everybody's skint attitude that they were so focused on trying to get by day to day rather than actually focusing on creating any wealth for later on. And I would debate, possibly even argue, that only 5% of the population is actually focused on wealth creation.
I would agree with you, and it's funny when you say that, like the day-to-day thing as opposed to a longer-term thought process. There's a lot of people I speak to, and I'm like, how are you? How are you getting on? I'm just doing it day by day. I hear that quite a lot.
But then is that not a result of the message that's sent out by the media and the government especially, that everybody seems to be struggling? Well, not everybody is struggling. And I know some people will watch this or listen to this and they'll go, oh, well, I'm struggling. I tell you what I'll do, contact me and I'll have a good look at what you're doing with all your habits and all your spending. And I'll find out that probably you're no struggling as much as you think you're struggling.
Or as much as you should be.
Yeah, that's it. I definitely think we've got you know how you get that mental block and how people get in that rut of this is what's happening. It's tragic. And we're watching far too much influence from other areas. I mean, why is it on the news that there's a tornado in India? How does that affect us? But you see how the news has got to a point where they've got to create content all the time. So we've now become into a global village almost in terms of news reporting. And you get it from everywhere. Somebody in the street has been shot down in America. Okay, but that's no here. It's thousands of miles away. Thousands of miles away.
You let it enter your mind space and have an effect.
And it's almost like people, they're getting, some of us are letting it get to us in terms of the mindset and thinking to yourself, oh, I would never bring children into this world today. And guess what? It was exactly like that in the 1980s for me. It was exactly
there wasn't as much coverage as well that we've got today.
And here's another one. We can't afford to have children. Yeah, you can. You're just making different choices with what you're doing. And this other one is everybody should have a house. Own a house.
Own a house, yeah.
Where did that come from? Because that is not what happens on the continent. In Europe. Not everybody, the majority of people actually rent. So why is it we've indoctrinated ourselves? Oh, it's the banks. Isn't it?
Yeah.
They want to sell you a mortgage. And that's the thing. So today's economy is changing the rules of wealth creation. But is it just subtly moving it, or is it changing someone's mindset to think it's not achievable anymore? And are the content creators actually trying to convince you that it is achievable in order to sell you a course so they can make more money?
Yeah. So we see that a lot. And rather than us say or push like maybe the economy is changing the rules, it's maybe how the influence of the wider community is having an effect on you and your wealth creation journey. Because when you look at the mainstream media, and like you say, it could be things plucked from halfway across the world, but you're taking that in and thinking, right, this is the situation, this is what we're part of. and you're
we're
not,
not.
really. Yeah.
We're not. I mean, yeah, fair enough. The Straits of Hormuz,
Yeah,
the
things like
carrying that's
that
going
have
on
enough
there with the
influence.
Americans. I I genuinely think there's a manipulation in the oil prices driven by the people in charge of that area,
Yeah.
on both sides, by the way, in order to boost their own balance sheet. Because it just so happens that both of them, America and Iran, are predominantly in oil.
Yeah.
It benefits them straight away, and it benefits every other oil company, which possibly they have shares in as well, or an interest to some degree. So this is what you have to decipher. This new investment landscape which comes out is possibly going to come back to, yeah, we should be doing the time-honored traditional investment strategies of, the Buffett. It's like
Yeah.
nobody wants to get rich slow. That's what Buffett famously said to Jeff Bezos one day. It's like, how come? What's going on? He says, well, just know everybody wants to get rich slow. That's it.
Mhm.
They all want it quick.
They all want it
Everybody wants
overnight.
it quick.
Yeah.
They're not prepared to compound on what they've got just now. And some people just want to spend for today and forget about tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
and not do that. So wealth isn't created in easy markets.
No.
It is created by people who learn to adapt themselves faster than everyone else. But also people, it can be easy. But what's happening is every generation believes that they're living through the toughest times going in investment history. But what they're not realizing is, or what they're not looking at, and what they're not accepting or looking for the facts in, is the fact that it's the same formula every single time for every generation.
Mm-hmm.
It is the live within your means.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you say that, you talk about looking back to the late 80s, the early 90s, and how things were then compared to now. And it might be a completely different landscape and than 10, 20 years ago. But like you say, it's having the knowledge to apply yourself and think about it in real time. Because if you apply the same methods, even though it's maybe a different landscape than what it was, you're still going to get the same or roughly the same results.
Absolutely. Let me give you Let me give you an example here of what's going on. The media keeps pushing this about we're not able to afford things and we're falling back and all the rest of it. And they took this soundbite recently. This was Sky News about how salaries are how inflation's got out of control over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at over the last 20 years, inflation was 78%. Somebody actually asked me, where did you get your facts? And I went, well, you just go into the Bank of England's calculator for inflation and you put £10 in and it tells you the £10 is now worth £17.86, which means the £10 has gone up by 78%. So 78% in 20 years, but the average salary, and we're talking about average here, so don't get, oh, that's no like my salary. I sound like Ricky Gervais. I've even got a voice for that. That's no my salary. It's no fair, and it's all that. Yeah, it's just an average, but we'll have to benchmark somewhere to be able to be comparable. So the 78% inflation has gone up over 20 years, but the average salary has gone up 70%.
Mm-hmm.
So over 20 years, there's been a 8% reduction in in terms of
the value of
erosion in value by 8% over 20 years, though. Now, that doesn't fall in line with the rhetoric about we've all gone to hell in a handbasket and we can't afford everything, according to the media, within a soundbite of 5 years. That is not the case. We've possibly had it so good for the last 15 years, for the 15 years before the 5 years, and then all of a sudden, it now realises, with the pumping of the money in from the economy, that inflation's been caused, and now inflation's catching up with where our salaries were in the first place. So it's called a realignment, and it always happens.
Yeah,
every single time. But you have to take into account things like, low interest rates have now gone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's at 3.75 base rate, but it was nothing like the 0.5 and 0.25 base rate it was all these years ago. That's why we were earning a lot more and keeping a lot more. So that's why, and as I argue in or a debate, the 20 years back, the first 15 years, yeah, we've been pretty well off because inflation's not actually spiked and caught up as a result, and therefore it's all happened at once now. So there's some sort of correction coming in. The cheap borrowing has disappeared. We know that. The taxes are actually higher. We're getting taxed from all avenues now. Regulation has definitely increased since the Labour Party took over and the Conservative Party disappeared because regulation is their thing to regulate everything. And that costs a lot more money bureaucratic wise. And then therefore that has to be paid for. We know that in rents. The only reason rents have gone up is because taxation's gone up, interest rates have gone up, and guess what? Regulation requirements have gone up as well, and compliance in the private rented sector. You can't do that for nothing.
No,
It
has
has
that
to be
direct
costed and added
effect.
on. So you can't expect anybody out there is going to tell me something different is delusional. Because if that's the case, then if you're doing your job right now, I'm going to add on more stuff to what you're doing, but I'm going to expect you to do the same job with the extra work and actually do it for the same price. Sorry, what's that I hear you say? I'm not doing that. Exactly. So why would you expect anybody else to do it? Why would you expect anybody else to do it? And that's the key in information here. Economic uncertainty it almost seems permanent, doesn't it?
It does, and it's because it's the way it's put across to us, and we continually hear it day in, day out. And it could seem like this is par for the course, and we're not going to get any better than this situation.
Yeah.
So,
China's struggling, and it's like, okay, but what's it got to do with us? It's like we are in the here and now. We're thousands of miles away from China, and yes, there might be a reciprocal ripple. It will come into us because China invest in us and have technology in us and all the rest of it, and they own companies in our country. But that ripples later on. So it's like we're getting everything entrenched into us all at the one time. And that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. They're not able to distinguish the signal from the noise.
Yeah. I think you explained that quite well. When things change across the world, there will be ripple effects to the other countries and things, but not anything that's completely overwhelming or detrimental. It's only big, issues like war and things that will have a direct impact. But they're continually reporting on these minor things that would affect us in a minor way. So when we look at that, usually, obviously, like people may think economic uncertainty, it's a permanent thing. And then people then think, this is the wrong time for me to invest. I shouldn't be investing just now. I'll wait till it all calms down. We'll wait till what all calms down. Is it?
Look at profit. It's like when people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful.
Yeah. And if there is periods of uncertainty and things, you've just already demonstrated, Jim, and we know that throughout history, when there is uncertainty in certain periods, these are the times that produce, some of the greatest wealth opportunities. Because
recessions last 18 months.
Yeah.
Recessions last 18 months on average. It's been proven. It's all the same every single time. And most millionaires are created in recessions. Most millionaires are created in recessions. Not at that point in time, but of all the acorns, the small acorns have invested in, the growth areas they've invested in. So when the recession's over, their investment starts to boom. And that's why the creation of the millionaire is at the beginning, but they're not really millionaires, if that makes sense. It's like it comes later, but it's because of what they did at that beginning. And property investment is a classic example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question really, when you think about, through difficult times, are people prepared or educated to weather these kind of situations and have the knowledge and understanding to how to operate throughout them? And a lot of people don't.
Everything's harder for them. It's all about how the headlines and the media affects them. It's things like somebody else has always got all the wealth. It's all their fault. It's like we want what they've got. They're hoarding it and storing it all. It's like they're not. They're not. You're just buying everything from them and you're using all their services, and that's why they're getting the wealth. So you're choosing to do that. Bezos, Tesla, all these big organizations that you get, but you'll never get anything out of them because that's not possible because they've got everything tied up perfectly well in order to mitigate their tax position.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. You can't change the law because you'll change it for everybody. That's the key here. This is why company law won't change for private landlords that have incorporated companies. They can't change that because all incorporated companies will then be affected. And we know that through dividend tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking out dividends, there's now a 2% extra going on. So it's no 8.7 anymore, it's 10.75, and 35.75, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the dividend tax, but it's going up for everybody. It's not, oh, we're going to get these private landlords, we're going to put incorporated ones, we're going to put 2% on their dividends. It's like, and everybody else is going, wait a minute, what about me? I'm not a private landlord. I was a fast one by the government,
Yeah.
pretending it was private landlords are getting, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the importance of long-term thinking over today's news, and then how did we get here? That's another thing you have to think about. The economy didn't change overnight.
I know.
And for years, we experienced exceptionally low interest rates, which allowed us to borrow cheaply, and property prices rose rapidly as a result of it, and money flowed easily, as I said before. Many investors entered the market believing this was actually normal.
Yeah.
Then inflation arrived after COVID came along, and we pumped so much money into the economy. And when you pump new money into the economy, inflation happens as a natural result. That's why look at the average household, what they earned 50 years ago compared to what the average household earns now. Because one person 50 years ago only used to work in the household. Now several people work in the household. Therefore, what's going to happen to the price of goods and services? They're going to go up to match that amount. That's key.
Yeah. The inflation definitely. That's what and like you say, people thought that was normal, because it was like that for such a good period of time. But that was always going to change.
What happened then? Interest rates went up.
Yep, interest rates went up. The banks increased interest rates. The mortgage costs rose dramatically, as we've all experienced, and governments needed to add that additional tax revenue, which we've seen coming through, and ultimately housing become more expensive.
Now that's the key here. More expensive. It's not expensive. It's just a bit more.
More expensive,
and that's just because of that. And I come back to saying it's exactly like what if you've got more regulation, you've got higher interest rates and all that. It's clearly going to be more. You can't change that. That's the key. Construction slowed as well. And I've got to point out where it lies, the blame, and it's Brexit.
Mm-hmm.
We sent all these skills and services back. All these people that used to work in that industry went away back because of Brexit, and they then focused on their own countries and stuff like that, or other countries. And that, as a result, all these things that you say there are businesses become cautious. Consumers reduce spending.
People held back, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're now seeing the consequences of several years of economic adjustment coming through.
Yeah, because we were at that point where these low interest rates and things, they created that confidence in people, and they thought that was the way of it. Then, like you say, inflation really changed all of that, and we had the higher borrowing costs that reduced affordability, the government finances, that influx in taxation and things, and that makes markets. That's why markets are consistently, kind of cynical.
Yeah.
Cyclical, sorry.
Cyclical. Markets are always cyclical, and the reason for that is because we're coming back to the boom and bust economies. I'm not necessarily entirely sure. I think the governments are still putting their hand in their pockets for people to bail them out. I'm not really sure what happened there with Princes Street in Edinburgh about the fire, but all of a sudden the Scottish government announced the other day
5 million,
they're going to put millions into it. And it's like,
I
wait a
heard that
minute,
yesterday.
what happened to all the insurance companies being liable? Why is the insurance companies no bailing this out and sorting this problem? That's what they're insured for. Why is the government stepping in? I just can't quite. And it's no my fight.
No.
It's an observation. Because normally I would write to Jenny Gilruth and go, because she was the one announcing it, and go, how's this? Why are we putting our hand in our pocket, the taxpayers' money, to pay for this? What's going on? Because it's a private building. It's not ours.
Yeah.
We don't own it. Where's the insurance? And I think there's an irresponsibility from their fiducial duty to look after the public purse.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing a problem here. And then when we come to things like the property market, I mean, when we look at the higher prices and all the rest of it, and focus on that, the property market isn't really broken. It's just resetting and realigning to where it should be.
Yeah.
To come into account. Now, we know in areas throughout Scotland, some are actually adjusting. I just had a conversation with someone from the London area, and they say they're struggling to sell property in London. Now, that is a sign, typically, that something's coming to Scotland.
Yeah.
When London start to struggle. But London are all struggling a wee bit, remember. It's not a huge price adjustment. A huge price adjustment usually not going to affect to Scotland is, a minor price adjustment. In London, it's not huge. It's single digit figures, so it's not going to be earth shattering. And I think it will be like that for a small time, some time to come. But property's always moved in cycles.
They do, yeah. They do, and I always think it's strange that, from my experience, and you've got a lot longer experience in the property market, Jim, that if the sales market and property sales and things are higher, the rental side seems to be a wee bit slower, and it would go up and down. But the other side of COVID and things proved us wrong in that situation, because both the rental and the sales side and things were both very busy, and they've continued to.
That was coming.
Yeah.
Knew that was coming, despite the fact that everybody else says the market was crashing.
Yeah.
And the only reason we know it's coming, and you don't need to be a savvy investor to understand this. As soon as you pump money into an economy, it's been, printed and basically put in, and you're creating extra money, then inflation will happen and the prices will go up to adjust for that. Yeah. And if the property market goes up in value, 2 or 3 years later, what happens is the rental market catches up with it. Because the people are now buying and are renting are paying the higher prices now. So therefore, they're going to have to charge the higher rents. People like me have been in it for years, don't necessarily need to charge the higher rents. However, we'd be completely naive to keep lower rents, because you have to be able to weather a storm at some point in time. So it's not a case of, we're making money. It's a case of we're basically storing money.
Future-proofing, yeah.
Yeah, to make sure that we can actually invest for the future, especially with uncertainty around rent controls and what's going to happen with that. And are we going to have rent freezes? Are we going to have this wealth tax on property? Are we going to have council tax triple on some properties? These are draconian times in terms of the private renting sector and property. And so you have to make sure you can weather a storm and de-risk and play the downside. More or less a bear market to a degree, but not a bear market to the point that I need to get out of this market. It's just like, no, you need to just make sure you're protected.
Making the right decision.
And that takes a bit of skill for anybody to understand that. Sometimes markets, sometimes landlords prosper, sometimes developers thrive, buyers, but it depends. This time you're seeing some markets at higher price points, because the higher price point is the issue here, are going a lot slower now. And when new builds getting built in that market as well, it takes a lot of demand out of the resale market, therefore it goes slower. And then some of the areas which have got huge investment from governments and infrastructure improvements are actually seeing a hot sellers market. So there's a balance in the hot sellers. We're not at the stage that we've got a buyer's market at this point in time.
No.
That has to go well below 30% of the properties on the market actually sold for it to be a buyer's market. So it's not anywhere near a buyer's market, but it is a realignment and a redefinition of some of the areas in terms of property. And today's market really rewards knowledge rather than speed. And this is what we're talking. This is the knowledge and expertise that you understand. Investors can no longer rely on rising prices alone. It has to be down to things like cash flow,
Yep.
due diligence. We're going through it now with
Yep.
something that we're trying to purchase. And I said to you, look, if this doesn't come off, I'm not going to be too upset about it. It might be a blessing in disguise. I've seen this all before, where I've gone for really good high profile. I mean, we even bid £1 million for land, and then it got rejected, and then suddenly to do development, which was going to cost about 10 million or more,
Yeah.
and then it got knocked back, and we didn't get it. And subsequently, the credit crunch came. It was like dodged a bullet there.
We were talking about that yesterday, dodging a bullet with things, and at the time you don't realise it, and in hindsight you're like, glad that never happened.
Yeah, and I did the same thing in Spain, where it's like just before that, it was like the prices were going up there, and it was 210,000 or something to buy a house there, and they were getting realigned in the builder to 250,000, and I thought I'm going to get my deposit down now, and eventually I lost my deposit at 500 quid, but I tell you what, credit crunch came along, wiped out the market, and Spain had never recovered until the last couple of years. Only the last couple of years. That's almost 20 years that's passed, and that is another blessing in disguise. So these things can be a blessing in disguise, and you want to be in a really good position to do that, and that's why due diligence matters. Negotiation matters again as well. Investors who understand their numbers are beginning to outperform those who have relied on market growth and just gut instinct. Oh, I think it could be that. Oh, everybody's making money. If I buy a property and refurbish it, I'm going to make money. That's bullshit.
It's not. And the days of that when, like you say, the landlord investors things used to just rely on the prices. And there was a time when people were buying things and you were able to do back to back, and they were doing deals and things like that quite easily. But now
what
I think
is the market like, Richard, in terms of rental demand, housing supply, and stuff like that? It's what is it like?
Yeah, I mean, rental demand remains exceptionally high and strong in a lot of areas, especially here in Fife. We've noticed that across the board. And that's down to the limited housing supply. And that continues to support these higher rents because there's such a high rental demand. But investors must focus on the substantial cash flow, like you said. You need to make sure there's cash flow coming through. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say cash is king, but that's cash is
the
trash.
cash flow.
It's cash flow. It's king. Yeah. Cash is trash because cash is just deflating money in your hand. Cash flow is the lifeblood. It's the blood that runs in the veins of the business.
Yeah. And because of house prices and things, a lot of the good opportunities are a lot of off-market deals and things that are, I know you don't like the word deals, but off-market opportunities.
Silly money.
Becoming
money.
Yeah.
It's like I'm paying a saucer like £5,000 or £6,000 for a deal at 40 grand. It's like, yeah, if it hit the market, it'd still be 40 grand, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Because that's just the value. And it just so happens they managed to source it. But then if it's just over 40 grand, you're paying 8% on top of that as well. So are you actually going to get that money back at all?
I done a quick blog on this the other day about you could build your own network and get your own contacts and build relationships with local agents and brokers and things. And that's where you could find really good off-market deals before they're going through these kind of sorcerers or onto the actual platforms where you're going to have a lot of competition.
But what they're saying, the people trying to sell courses, your traditional routes to market, like talking to estate agents and getting in there before everybody else, you've got to get in before that now. You've got to find them before they go to estate agents. And I'm like, I think you're just creating more work for other people. I think once the estate agents have been out and they know and understand where you are, if you're in a perfect position to do something within 4 to 5 weeks and there is an opportunity that comes up, an estate agent isn't going to go, oh, I'm going to put it on the open market. If they've got a motivated seller and they're needing to get something done quickly and they can get that deal done at the number the motivated seller needs, because they'll get paid quicker. So I genuinely don't believe that this rhetoric about estate agents earning the route to find out now, I think it's still a most valuable route. And I think that's another opportunity for new investors to actually revisit actually sitting down with the stage and having a wee chat with them and saying what your position is and what you can do and what your appeal is over everybody else in terms of being a buyer, because we're kind of coming in some areas to a buyer's market, but it also allows them to exit quickly and then to get paid as well. I mean, that can't be undervalued anymore because everybody's preaching that you shouldn't go to that route. That's like everybody saying, don't sell your house in winter. And I'm like, well, that's the best time to sell.
Yeah.
Because no one else is selling their house because they're all convinced and
Everybody's
told by
got
this
that in their mind, yeah.
not to sell their house. Guess where the buyers are still? They're still looking at their phone.
Mm-hmm.
They're away on holiday somewhere in the Bahamas or wherever it is, and they're still looking at their phone. They're still scrolling Facebook or media or whatever it is, the height of the Eiffel Tower every day on average. And that's what you're missing. That's where people are missing the opportunity. So I believe there's an opportunity there of actually revisiting the stage and having a chat to them. It's been a long time since an investor's actually done that for us, especially. I've never had them come to me and say, well, is there any opportunities? That used to happen about 10 years ago, but it doesn't happen now.
I've got a few savvy investors who do come to me and look and speak to me in that kind of fashion. So, but there's very few and far between.
So what are the new challenges then facing investors?
There are quite a few challenges that face investors, and there's a few pressures from quite a few directions, and we spoke about some of them, like, interest costs, and of course taxation. Compliance is a big one, and that has a knock-on effect on what your numbers are going to be, because you need to incorporate that in. And we've got energy standards, we've got the net zero thing.
That is a classic. See the amount of scaremongering that's going on social media just now about this EPC thing. Oh, it's all going to change and everything like that. And I'm thinking, there's a get out of jail card in there, which is if it's prohibitive, you can't do it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you'll still get away with a lower EPC rating on your property. It's not. They just don't get it. Eh? How could you put ground source heat pumps in a block, a tower block? It's like 4 high. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Every single flat, ex-local authority flat, everybody's got four ground source heat pumps out the back, or air source heat pumps. Like this doesn't make sense. And to get that, and then it's prohibitive cost about the cost of actually doing the job compared to what you'll save. Oh, £200 a year I'll save for spending £20,000.
They're not cheap.
I just laugh at that. So I think your energy standards is one where there is an opportunity for a lot of people to buy potentially at really good value from existing landlords who are actually terrified of these energy standard legislation, and they're buying into it. They're believing the hype around this. I'll wait till I've learned all these lessons. I'll wait to 2028 and 2030 before I actually do anything about it. Because by then they'll kick the can down the road again and they'll say, oh, well, we've not really got anything established. Let's just revisit in another 2 or 3 years. And that's all that's happened from the very beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes ahead of 2028, because they've moved that a few times.
Yeah. Let's focus on one thing that's actually quite important. It's obviously the tenant.
Yeah.
I mean, tenants are actually becoming a bit more fussy in their expectations, aren't they?
They are, and there is a lot higher expectations from tenants. And in one aspect, you could agree with them in that, because obviously it's their home and they want somewhere good to live. But then that cost, that has been, again, pushed by platforms, media, and that cost then is back onto the landlord to provide that level of accommodation and things as well. Just like the energy efficient rating and things, but also the standard of the property as well.
And this is obviously why investors, some of them are choosing the reason to leave, and others are seeing fewer competitors. And when barriers rise, competition often falls. Therefore, you're in a unique position. The investors who remain, I've always said it, if you're the last man standing and what you've got is still in demand, then you've literally got a monopoly in terms of where you are, and you're more valuable to other people. And that's the point. So the increased regulation should not be looked at, oh my God, we've got more regulation. It's like, oh my God, there's an opportunity there. because I know landlords are going to leave. The higher landlord taxation, landlords are going to leave. The higher operating costs, landlords are going to leave. Rent controls, policy uncertainty, all these things, and landlords are going to leave. And I'm like, happy days. This is great.
And all the landlords,
happens, the worse the better it gets for the people that stay, and the worse it gets for the tenants. I mean, that is crazy, eh?
Yeah.
They know that's what happens, but yet, and it gets worse for tenants, but they still keep doing it. I almost goad them to do something detrimental. I'm always winding them. You know that. I always tag them and wind them up on social media because I'm thinking the more you upset this market, the more it is an opportunity for me. It's definitely, that's what it is. This is where understanding, knowledge and expertise and professionalism becomes a real competitive advantage. And this is what history teaches us.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I touched on it slightly earlier, but history never repeats itself exactly. Do you know, we could think about all the different markets over the years, and they change ever so slightly, but they often, do you know, there's rhymes of how they do repeat over the years. Property crashes have happened before, inflation has happened before, the recessions have happened before, and also high interest rates have happened before.
Yep, and I'm still here. And I've
been and every time those cycles happen, they eventually come to an end. And like you said, Jim, the investors who survive these difficult markets benefit the most during the recovery of the market, whether it be from a recession or inflation rises and things. The market doesn't reward your perfect timing. People try and think, well, I'll time the market and do this, and I'll wait till this is finished. And it doesn't work like that. It rewards your patience throughout and weathering the storm throughout these times.
Yeah. This reminds me of the credit crunch. So what happened is it wiped out this woman and she had to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
But what happened was the mortgages were more than the property value at that point in time in the credit crunch. And she was still paying the rent, and she was still getting the rent, it was still paying the bills. So the banks weren't that bothered. For some reason, they left her alone. But the key here was, when she went to the bankruptcy, they went, well, there's no point in actually evicting the tenants and selling the properties because you'll not get the money for it. You may as well just wait. So they left that alone because it's a negative equity situation. The bankrupted her another bit. And then what happened was, and 10 years later, they doubled in value. So she's made, 100,000 or something like that out of this.
Just by waiting, yeah.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you're saying here. The market's not perfect, but and investors who survive difficult markets often benefit from the recovery. And that's what happened to me when I retired at 38, and then I went into a state agency, and I retired a millionaire, and then a state agency hit, and then the credit crunch hit, and I was like, I was no longer a millionaire. Bank never touched my property, but I tell you what, my property portfolio is huge now in comparison, and that was all out of that seed. It was never killed off. It was never anything like that. It was still there because I knew at some point in time everything would recover. Just like stock markets, when stock market drops, I tend to go in and buy stock in blue chip companies, and the reason for that is because I know it will recover anyway. And if it doesn't recover, guess what? Nobody else is recovering either.
Yeah.
Because they're blue chip stocks. If these companies go to the wall, everybody else is going with them. So you're not going to protect yourself, because if you managed to find a way where you protected yourself and everybody else went with them, then you wouldn't even your wealth wouldn't save you in that situation anyway. It would be no good to you. Because you'd be the only person with the wealth, and everybody wouldn't have anything left. There'd be nothing to produce. There'd be nothing to do anything. There'd be no businesses. There'd be, there would be nothing. Your wealth wouldn't do you any good at all in that situation. And that's why I keep saying, there'll come a time if you get, me is 14% interest rates. If interest rates go to 14%, then I have to maybe have a bit of concern when they're at 14%. But if they're going at 14%, we are all going to hell in a handbasket. So it'll not make any difference if I'm here or no at that point in time. You want to be able to go at the end of it and go, yeah, I'm better off, but there's no one else here because
everybody
it's
else
all
is
going to
doing
pot.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing to buy because no one's working anymore. Everything's out. It's like the 1930s stock market crash,
Mhm.
and then everybody lost their job, and that's the point. So that won't save you at that point in time, and that's why I understand the markets. You're absolutely right. Markets don't reward timing, perfect timing. They reward the patience. They just and I keep telling everybody that this is what I was talking about at the beginning. Live within your means, well within your means. The first thing you should do when you get your salary is, what am I going to put away to my savings, to my long-term investments,
Mhm.
and then what have I got left to spend? That's it.
Not the other way around.
Yep. You do the other way around, you'll be broke for the rest of your life. Because you'll never save anything. You'll never save as much as you're going to do the right way around, which is,
Mhm.
and the right way is not what everybody else is doing. The right way is what 5% of the population are doing. It's a well-known fact. And you could choose to be in that 5% based on your habits that you create. So what you're putting aside and what you got left to spend, rather than actually what am I spending and what have I got left to invest.
Yeah.
Success leaves clues, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And there's, like you say, the vast majority of people do it the wrong way around. And that's how they're maybe sometimes moderately successful, but not as much as they'd like to be. But yeah, with what history teaches us, like we say, we've learned these lessons from previous recessions. We've been through the periods of high interest rates. We've spoke about recovering always follows the contraction, and long-term ownership does beat short-term, the speculation and things as well. And that's why, like you said, when we talk about time, it remains the greatest investment advantage of all, if you could just allow it to do its job. But then looking ahead, if we do look ahead, and what could possibly maybe the next 5 years for us look like? Now, nobody knows the future. Yeah. And everybody usually...
5 years from now.
But if you observe the trends for previous years...
I've got a good prediction of the future in the next 5 years.
Okay, let's hear it then.
I think we'll have a moderate correction. I think the AI bubble will eventually burst, and then that's when the fallout comes as a result of that. I can't see AI. I mean, every single week, more and more educated people are now realizing that AI is not going to do everything they thought it was going to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, but it's becoming more apparent. It's a bit of a fad, and really
you're going to try. The stock's overvalued, so a lot of these people have put their investment into that stock. It's overvalued. Well, it'll be a telltale sign for them. It's almost like putting it in Bitcoin, isn't it? At this point in time, you're taking a gamble based on what you think the future is going to be, but more and more knowledgeable and influential people are now realizing that. I think Ray Dalio says this as well. He said that I think AI will just probably create just as much jobs as it actually displaces. Just like most things, but it takes a bit of time in between to actually do that because people have to retrain and reskill for that industry. Just like it did with the industrial age, just like it did with other periods in time where there was a huge shift. I mean, manufacturing was a classic example, volume manufacturing, and also, I mean, what happened? It was going to put all these people out of a job, and it did. All these production lines producing all these goods, but what did they do? They just went away and worked somewhere else. We've still got full employment in our economy. It's not changed. So it takes a wee bit of time to transition into that, but that's all that happens. When farming, look at farming, everybody had to go to the fields and used to pick the potatoes. And then along came a tractor which could do all that for you. And then that wiped out all these jobs. Have we still got high unemployment? No. Because everybody just went and worked in something else.
Find elsewhere. So
it just causes a short-term readjustment and realignment and correction.
Realignment,
yeah, in terms of what it's doing. So that we say when nobody knows the future, you're absolutely right. But we can observe the trends, can't we? Based on what I've just discussed just now.
Yeah, I think for us, it's fair that I'm going to talk about housing, and it's fairly obvious to us because we're in that sector. But for people that aren't, then I mean, it's quite obvious that housing demand it's continuing to exceed the supply in most of, if not all of the UK, I would say.
Yeah.
And
now, I am going to give you, and a lot of people are not going to like this at all, but you have to understand and face facts about where we are right now. We've got a huge amount of illegal immigrants coming into the country,
mhm.
and everybody else has as well. And Africa is going to be 25% of the world's population in the next 5 to 10 years because they know that, because they're all born, so they're all going to grow up. And that's what's going to happen. So we're going to have to embrace that and suck it up, and they're going to need houses and training, because we're I mean, what do? Do you just push them across to the side and leave them to rot? It's like, that won't happen, will it? That'll just
No.
cause more disruption. You're just going to have to bite the bullet at that point in time and say to yourself, we have to have some sort of economic strategy to get all these people trained. And you could moan about it, and you could go on about it and be upset about it, about what about our own people and all the rest of it and everything like that. But that's what's actually going to have to happen. And if you say, and it is going to happen, whether you like it or not, we're just going to have to embrace it and suck it up. But housing, you're right, housing demand continues, and it will exceed supply because of that.
Yeah, and population, like you say, Jim, the world over, do you know, it continues to increase, and it increases the pressure on, do you know, every country really, just about. And here in the UK, we're talking about like construction remains below the required levels. Could that possibly, like you're saying about the influx of people and training them up properly, could that be the answer?
It's probably all the people that were chucked out for Brexit.
Yeah, a lot of them will be. Yeah.
Otherwise, you know what I mean? Before Brexit, it's probably all the other people that never got it. It's probably all other people that came in via that route and worked in these industries and got training from the employers paid for it, not the government. And they got housing, and the employers paid for it, not the government. And now we've got Brexit came along, and probably that's reversed, and now the government's having to pay for it rather than the employers to get these people. So I think there's going to have to be some sort of just, I hate to say acceptance, because it's like, oh my God, it's like, really? But we're just going to have to come to that conclusion that that's what we're going to have to do. Construction remains low is exactly what you said. Governments continue to search for solutions, which will never be. They're just going to have to suck it up. Technology continues to change the employment platform, and artificial intelligence are reshaping industries, but not necessarily actually changing. They're just changing the job structure. That's all. Economic growth is likely to remain uneven over these periods of times. Interest rates may gradually reduce over time, but probably not to the exceptional levels once enjoyed before. The future may reward efficiency rather than expansion alone.
Yeah.
And that's what it. So it's actually, because remember, when you look at food production as well, you're going to have efficiencies in food productions. You can't continue to grow at this rate and actually still have the same type of food production methods in terms of what you're doing, like having loads of cattle sitting in fields and providing loads of soya and vegetables for the cattle to eat in order to keep them. So look at that. I mean, let's explore the plant-based option. Okay, you get rid of all the cattle, you've got all that land, and all that resources are saved. And somebody says straight away, but you've got all the land, you've got to plant, you've got to put all these vegetables and everything on. Okay, that is the vegetables that the cattle was eating in the first place.
They would be eaten anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so you're just eating them instead. That's all. It's the same thing as soya bean. That's not a likely argument. That's not even a debate on that, because it clearly demonstrates that you're going to need more land. We cannot, and I think that's what they're exploring, the moon options, isn't it? That's why they're back on the moon. Because there's somebody, I'm sure I saw somebody the other day saying, why are we needing to put Wi-Fi on the moon? I'm sure somebody said that in a thing, and it's like, because we're going to have to populate it at some point in time. Or maybe the rich people are going to have to populate at some point in time. Maybe that's the escape plan for them. Have you ever seen Elysium with Matt Damon? Yeah. Well, it could be more true than you think, when you think about the logic of that. So we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know where it's coming from. But I definitely think housing shortages, infrastructure investment, demographic changes, technology and production, and flexibility is probably more important than prediction at this point in time.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible, and that's where it rewards the people that are flexible, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then it raises a question. We talk about all this and the current status and where we might be, and then people might be like, well, where am I going to create my wealth in the future? Do you know, and future wealth may not simply come from just owning an asset. It may come from being able to actually manage it a lot better. And when we think about things like property, making sure you're buying below market value. I mean, not just property, it could be stocks or whatever, and then being able to add value and improving efficiency and things as well, thus reducing costs and ultimately making that asset perform to its optimum level, rather than just...
I agree with that, Richard. I can't disagree with that at all. I'll give you the simplistic example for me is when you talked about efficiencies and stuff like that. I've been doing that since the very beginning, because I remember when we did house changeovers 30 years ago, I had to write to the council physically and put a letter in the post to them to say that the tenancy is changing or the tenancy is empty, and then they accepted fax. So I got a fax card and stuck it in my laptop in my tower system. So I got one wire, a fax thing, and then I had to unplug the telephone. I had to plug the fax card in, and then I would send it straight from Word. Because email they wouldn't accept email at that point in time either. So it had to be a fax. So I had to send a fax that way. But that made it more efficient because I didn't need to post everything. I didn't need to pay for postage anymore. And print everything out. It's like the ink and the postage and the money and the time and the effort, and having to go to the post box. And so, that's the simplistic way of being a lot quicker in terms of what you're doing. And then email. We're going to accept emails now. Superb. So everything's emailed now to the council in one hit, isn't it? So just one hit on the exit, and it sends it out to the utilities, it sends it out to the council, it sends it out to whoever it is. Another hit sends it out jobs that are needing done in the property, sends something out to the landlord, and all the rest of it. And it's like, there's the efficiencies. There's where you create value in terms of what you're doing, and it's your efficiency. Look at the great example of this. Look at the prices of washing machines today to where they were 20 years ago, even 30 years ago. I remember I was buying an 800 spin speed Indesit. I remember it, my first washing machine I bought from the Co-op.
Yeah.
And it was £219. 30 years ago. What is the base entry level of a washing machine now? It's something like a 1400 spin speed, and it's 250 quid.
Yeah.
How could they do that? Efficiencies, improvements.
They're manufacturing that just a lot more. Yeah.
So they're doing all the efficiencies, improvements, and then when somebody comes along and says, "I'll sell you a warranty," it's like, I didn't bother. They're that cheap. I could afford to modify. If it lasts me 5 years, I made my money because your warranty is 50 quid. But some of these machines, I remember that Indesit washer lasted. Oh, geez. I think it was with us for about 10 years, and then I eventually put it in one of our properties, and it lasted another 10 years. So it lasted about 20 years.
Yeah.
That's mental when you think about it. But that's how these technology and productivity and efficiencies and all the rest of it, and reducing your costs, that's where it's going to be done now.
Yeah. And some people may argue, we'll create multiple income streams, but I think if you find one and do it right, it's maybe a better plan. But then each to their own, I suppose.
Time. Time's the most important, isn't it? And that's why I don't go to see properties anymore. I work out the numbers first, sitting at a laptop, and I put a tentative email in to say that, my numbers work at this level. Would your client be interested? And if they go, yep, I go, okay, I'll pop round for a viewing then.
Yeah, because you're initially using all that data and the facts to make your decisions and
I don't
make
spend time viewing multiple properties anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And even better, when you've got a portfolio, it's like, all right, okay, I just send a surveyor down to assess all the properties in part of the bank, because you finance it through the bank as well, get approval for that, and then you don't need to view anything. I've never seen any of them that I bought recently. About 40 or 50.
No, you've not. No.
Yeah, I've never seen any of them. Never been in any of them.
I've been in most of them. There's some I've not even been in. There's some I've not even been in.
I know, and I don't see the need, because it's because once you create a system, once you create efficiencies in terms of what you're doing, you start to eliminate the things that are time consuming, and you get that time back to focus on the things that could add higher value to what you're achieving overall.
Yeah, and you build these systems that work, and then that means that there's less reliance on actual physical effort and things to do things. And when you do that and property investment things, if you're successful, you become a better, a business owner as opposed to just a landlord.
It's a business. It's a business. I'm not caring what anybody says. Andy Burnham, this is a challenge, or even John Swinney or that. Come round and spend some time with us on our property and tell me this isn't a business we're running. Because it
absolutely is. Yeah,
and it's not a passive income. It takes a lot of effort, resources, and everybody else's efforts to actually make it work, and that's why you're paying contractors to do everything. So if a contractor's got a business and he's working on your business, then it's a business.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So
becoming better business owners. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to round up and just kind of talk about how we've kind of geared towards how there's always opportunity, and an opportunity, no matter how the economy, how the market, or how things lie, it never disappears. And every difficult market feels kind of permanent when you're living it real time. And even when it's a boom market, it will always eventually cool down and level out. But every downturn eventually then recovers as well. So whether you're in a boom market or a recession, it will come back around again in a cycle like we spoke about. The challenge isn't about.
Does. I mean, in anybody's mind, Richard, when you think about it, I mean, it's so obvious when you say it, isn't it? Every downturn will recover. But I don't understand why everybody doesn't understand that. You just need to look at everything that's happened in the past. It's like the stock markets, the FTSE 100 is nearing 11,000 points. In fact, it might be there today when I look. $10,901. And it's like, we've got all the problems in the world going on right now, and the FTSE 100 still really buoyant and almost at a record high.
Yeah.
I mean, this should tell you everything. Some people are actually waiting for the certainty.
Yeah.
Definitely out of this. It's like, listen, if you don't, done is better than perfect at this point in time. If you wait for certainty, you're just going to miss out on that opportunity. You're missing out because somebody else is in there before you. Definitely, history tends to reward the second group, others that are preparing regardless.
Yeah,
people like me, we're always assessing the situation. We're always absorbing the data. I watched The Big Short again the other night about the credit crunch and what happened and collateral debt swaps and all the rest of it, and think, is there a correlation between what's happening there and is there any evidence in the industry just now that's happening? And to a degree it is, I would say, but not as prevalent as it was before. So it's just preparation.
Yeah.
Point of readiness, when preparation and opportunity meet. Definitely.
Yeah, and if you're continually learning and you understand the risks and you're protecting your cash flow and you've got that mindset of let's think about decades, 10, 20 years ahead rather than just months, you'll usually emerge quite stronger or a lot stronger than those that wait about and try and do that. We'll wait on the perfect timing or the perfect conditions. It's very hard to do that in any market.
I know somebody that's been waiting for 20 years and they've still never bought a property.
Think about what they could have built and achieved in 20 years.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a long time.
I know people that started out at the same time as me and they're no longer in the industry and they're bound to look at me and think, God almighty, I wish I'd stuck it out.
Should I took action then? Yeah.
Yeah, because I was convincing them that you shouldn't be exiting. It's a short-term blip in terms of where you are right now. That'll recover, and you'll be back on track again. No, just didn't. It didn't suit them, it's again, it was back to the signal and the noise and understanding where that lies.
Yeah, absolutely. So adaptability should really be the new investment strategy. As we've said today, economic cycles will always create opportunity, and having that right knowledge reduces the uncertainty throughout times. And your wealth creation is that long-term process. It's not an overnight thing. And always look at today's challenges, and if you look at them with the right mindset and the right education, they may become tomorrow's advantages for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And that's really where we're going to round it up today. But I think it's quite clear that no matter what the outside noise is, you need to stick to your own strategy and your own mindset and not let too much noise influence how you are trying to pave your own path and generate your own wealth, because I could hold you back.
I think more importantly, Richard, you're absolutely right there. I think more importantly, it's actually getting advice. It's actually running your idea past somebody who actually is knowledgeable and experienced in that industry, and saying, does this make sense? Rather than actually thinking you make sense yourself.
Yeah.
What you don't know is you don't know, and that's okay. But sometimes it's what you think you know, but it actually isn't.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So you actually think, it's this way, and every bit of evidence you look at is designed to reinforce your belief that it is this way. I mean, look at the amount of property investors. It actually said you need to sell now. You need to sell now.
Yeah.
Now's not a good time to buy. The crash is coming, and all the rest of it. Around COVID and stuff like that. Even Robert Kiyosaki, Simon had to come back and apologise about a year later and say, he gave everybody the wrong advice.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I was saying, no, there's no evidence to suggest that this market's going to crash. It's just a COVID thing because we're indoors now, and this will boom at the back of it because we're pumping all this money in the economy.
It's just another cycle.
And hence the reason I went on a buying spree.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but the message there is if there's uncertainty and you're uncertain, don't sit on the fence or maybe make the wrong decisions if you feel like it's not right. Speak to the right people.
Professional advice, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And definitely. possibly, I think the most important message I'm about to finish with is take a good look at the person you're about to take advice from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want their lifestyle, listen to them. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Look at where they are, and is that somewhere that you want to?
Are they actually more successful than you? My mentors used to say to me that whenever anybody ever challenged them, they used to say, I'll tell you what we'll do. You write down your net worth, and I'll write down mine. And if you've got a higher net worth than me, I'll listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really good advice when you think about it. Because if they were in a position to be able to advise them to make even more money, then they would have been making it themselves.
Yeah, and always look for the evidence of what their actual net worth is, because they could tell you any figure really. But
stay on the company's house, look up all their companies and see. They've got a pot to piss in.
Right, okay. If anybody's got any questions, you could jump in the comments box. I've got my direct contact details attached to this post, so you feel free to reach out to me if you've got any questions about what we've spoken about today. Jim and I will see you on the next show. Thanks for your insights, Jim, and we'll leave it there today.
Okay, bye for now.
Okay.